computer. I don't have a word of people here. I know there are a lot of IT people here.
So why I'm not IT?
Okay. I don't know what to call you. You're in the management, I understand. But it is something to do with that, right? And because most of my clients until then were all doctors, 95% of them. And when Tony Bai came into the picture, first 2-3 he just invested. And then we got connected more, Tony Bai connected with Hetal Bai. And then we decided to do something together. And we have done many opportunities together. And I don't know, for me, my life has become very, very, very easy. You will see today, after this last thing, he's going to take over. My life has become very easy between Hetal Bai and Tony Bai. And we have done some great opportunities. And so, here's Tony Bai. Come on in, Tony Bai.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jobai. Thanks, Hetal Bai. Thanks, Kuldeep, for this opportunity. So let's get this party going, right? So for folks who do not know me, Tony Modi, I've been working quite a bit with Hetal Bai, Jobai on land syndication or land banking as we call it now. So thanks for coming, first of all of you guys, taking time off from your busy schedule. I know taking time off on a Thursday, definitely it's not very easy. But thank you so much for showing up, huge numbers. We were worried whether, folks are going to fill in or we may just have a couple of tables, but Hetal Bai said, whatever happens, right, we go. So here we are. We have a great amount of speakers with a lot of knowledge. We're going to kick this off with my dear friend, Venkat Komaneni. Venkat is somewhere here. He's going to kick us off. Venkat is the president and CEO of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. I think every month, Venkat, we at least meet once in an occasion like this. I think I just met him last week at the Bharat Arizona Associate land that we have. So great supporter. Anything that we need from a community perspective, always there, available to us. So we're going to kick it off with Venkat first. Take us away, Venkat.
Hello everyone. So first of all, I got so many calls after your flyer went into the community. So what is the relation with you and land? So why you are involved and then what you are going to speak, right? So definitely it is not much, but I have a lot of friends like just who are the landholders, like huge landholders in our community. So I think I spoke to a couple of them, basically, so we have this summit, just you need to join, and then in case if you're not coming, so what kind of questions do you have, what should I say, right? I think, how can I represent the community here? So first and foremost, our Honorable President Trump, always asking to bring the manufacturing back into this country, right? So as city officials, our request here is, anything you can do, marketing from your side, and then to bring those manufacturing units here. So many people in our community are ready to, all the landholders, they are ready to give their lands in subsidized price for them, because definitely it is going to be useful for them as well, right? So anything like this you are doing, I think they are ready to work with you. And so I think we can take that offline, but definitely there are so many people, not only one, one of my close friends, he holds almost 1,000 acres, right? So he himself called me just now, but he's not well, that's why he did not join with us. So that is one of the things definitely, I seek your help for our community. So the second one is for the single family development, I think the water rights is a confusion for the people. I don't know, the details about that. That is one of the things, just came to my notice, and then they asked me to ask this question. So I think there should be some clarity about that. So that way, I think people can be able to invest. And coming back to the last point, right? So there are more than 130K Indians in the valley. It is the latest numbers, when I was talking to our Maricopa County assessor, and so other people. So that is the kind of count like what we have. So I think out of all that, so if you see, most of them are IT professionals, and then doctors. And in ASU, how many of you can guess this, right? So how many professors we have who are Indian origin? 25. Any guess?
25.
Wrong? No, that is too much. So we have almost 250 professors, right? So in ASU alone, right? So, and out of that, I think we have to be so proud about this. AI, right? So AI department head is one of the Subbarao Khamampati is one of the Indian guys, and even computer science, right? So as well as the business side, so many of them are leading the universities as well. So you know that, like just the president of University of Arizona is an Indian guy, right? So I think by saying all these things, so we have so many people who are ready to invest, but they don't know where to start. So I think that is where, like, I think this summit is going to help everybody. I think, yeah, this is a small number. I think just moving forward next year, I think just we have to work a little better and then so get more people who are really interested in this. Okay, I will stop here and then thank you, Tony, for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Venkat. So, a couple of big points that Venkat brought up, water rights, we have it covered. Talk about data center, we have that covered too. And how do you get started in land? No other person who can give you that information or guide you than Hetalbhai and Kudeep. So I think we have all that covered, Venkat. Things will come. So like I said, we have quite a bit of interesting users. You will get a lot of information about land, what's happening in Maricopa County, what's happening in Pinal County, what's happening in Phoenix. So next up, we also have a very good speaker, Ryan Reed. I'm going to tee you up, Ryan. Ryan actually is the CEO of CDL. CDL stands for Co and Van Loo Consultants. We work quite a bit with Ryan's organization. He's one of our lead engineers for the land that we have. If you have to change the zones, any other study that we have to do. So it's Ryan who's the first call that Hetalbhai takes.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Joe, for inviting me to speak again this year. I'd like to go a little bit into my background just so you understand what a civil engineer does. So for you all, I think my focus would be primarily during the feasibility and due diligence process. So a lot like when you're buying a home, you put in an offer on that home, you meet an agreed sales price with the seller, and then you get that due diligence period. You get that feasibility period, inspection period. And that's when I hope that you'll call me, or please call a civil engineer, even if it's not me. A lot like you would call a home inspector when you're looking to purchase that home. So you can understand all the great parts about the home, but also what are all the repairs that might be needed with that home. And that's what we do, or that's what I help do with Tony, Dr. Shaw, Joe, and their clients on properties. We look at the property and we say, here's where the water is located, here's where the sewer lines are located, here's where the electrical might be coming into the property. But also, here's where the floodplain is located. Here's where there might be some drainage problems that you need to be aware of on that property that you're looking to invest in. Also, you could be looking at other problems, and I've got to go through a quick list of those here as we get into it. So this is me. My company specializes in master plan communities, a lot of which are very large. We've been working on Estrella for like the last 30 years. So that's several thousand acres that our companies help master plan and design. We've helped design the water infrastructure, the wastewater infrastructure, and then we get even down to each of the single family lots that home builders will construct homes on. Infrastructure roadways, large-scale solar projects. My firm helped design the Agua Caliente project for First Solar, which was at the time the 300 megawatt solar project out near Dayton, north of Interstate 8. That was the largest at the time in the world, and it's been since surpassed, I'm sure, 10 times over, but that was in, I think, 2014. Commercial projects, school projects, and data centers are obviously data centers are the hot topic of today. You can go ahead and slide this. Thank you. Some key clients, D.R. Horton, Shea Homes, as I mentioned, single-family home builders. We're doing public work project for the city of Buckeye, and also do quite a bit of work for APS as one of our big clients as well. some due diligence process steps that I'd like to make sure each of you take, and again, that could be with me or with any other qualified professional. One thing I've been talking to Joe a lot about is getting a pre-app with the municipality. So some of you are shaking your heads, so I know that you know what that is, but if you don't, what you need to prepare, and a lot of these things I'm gonna tell you, you can do yourself. You don't need to hire someone to do, you can do it from your computer. You can get a great IT guy like Tony to help you get connected. Just kidding, Tony. Joe started it, I'm just carrying it along. Anyway, so you can get online, there's applications that can be filled out. And really all you need is draw a little square or draw on the Google map where the property is. The county assessor has a great website. Most of you, Joe's turned me on to several other cool websites that I didn't even know existed that he sent me some links to. So there's a lot of data out there available in GIS that you can utilize. Submit the application. Some municipalities have a fee, some don't. But then that is a key step, because now you're gonna have a meeting with the municipality that's gonna approve your project or approve the project for someone who might buy the property from you in the future. And that's very important, because that buyer is gonna go through the same process that you're going through now. Some of them are $500 for review, some of them are free. But when you do that, at least now you'll know, can the buyer of my property in the future get what they want to do out of it? And could I get what I want to do out of it? And that's a very easy step to take. It takes about 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get that meeting. That's important, because if you have a short escrow, you wanna make sure you have a long enough escrow to draw that plan, submit it, and have that meeting. Otherwise, you'll be buying something that you won't necessarily know exactly what you can do on that property until you have that meeting. So that's important. Utility service, a lot of those maps are available online. You can go through a website that's like Arizona 811. That's, they have publicly available maps. So you have to, I think there may be a little training class that's needed, but once you give them the square, or I say square, but the shape of your parcel that you're looking to purchase, they will send you free maps. And they'll email you those maps, and then you'll be able to see, hey, here's the power, and it's this close to me, or here's the water, it's this close to me. My staff can help with that as well. Flood zones, again, those are available on FEMA's website. I always Google, because I don't do great at bookmarking things. FEMA floodplain maps by address. And then you put in the address of the parcel, or even the cross streets or the city, zooms you right there, and you can see if the property that you're looking at is in a flood zone. A water supply is a lot more tricky, and that's probably why it's in the news so much these days. But we can get into water supply a little bit. I have a slide kind of focused on that. I'm going to get a little bit into the entitlement process, and this is something that you would do, or maybe your end user would want to do. But there are steps in here, I think, that will help you decide whether or not the property that you're looking at is something that you want to invest in, or because you want to try to understand how much effort is a buyer, or if you're looking to develop the property as something great, this speaks to you. If you're looking to sell their property in the future, you want to understand what is your buyer going to have to go through to get what they want out of the property, assuming they're an end user. You're on annexation, if you're in the county, you may want to see, is it advantageous to annex into a local municipality, whether it's Eloy, Tonopah, although that's mostly county, sorry, Buckeye, Goodyear, any of those Phoenix metropolitan agencies. There may be some advantages to that. A lot of times there's not. A lot of times the disadvantage is more taxes, impact fees. There are a lot of reasons, in my opinion, to not look at annexation into a municipality. But there can be other positives to an end user. One thing I was mentioning earlier, speaking before the meeting with some of the guests, look at the general plan map. Those are also available online. The general plan will tell you what the municipality or what the county is looking for that property to be. They will tell you whether they think it should be single-family residential or some type of residential, whether they think it should be commercial long-term. So you want to understand those things, just make sure that that's compatible with what you either think the property should be, or what the user in the end might think it should be. Zoning, the same way. Other maps are available online that show what the property is currently zoned. Now, if it's currently zoned agricultural, or maybe it's unzoned if it's in the county, you can use that general plan map and go back there and say, okay, when it is zoned, this is what the municipality thinks it should be. So you can understand what that possibility is. Again, this breaks down into commercial, residential, mixed use type of development. Depending on which zoning category it falls into, if it's an RU43, that tells you what size lots that you can have if you're looking at it as a single family community. And then you look at at the zoning and it breaks it down into what the architecture, how tall the buildings can be, how big the lots need to be. A lot of that information we can talk about. Then the next step that your buyer would go through would be a preliminary plat or a commercial site plan, and ultimately into construction plans and construction permits. Most of my job for most of my clients, it goes beyond the due diligence process all the way through to a permit. But I can stop anywhere in between, and that's something that Joe and I have done a lot of work together on, and Tony, we've looked at zoning properties and we stop. We don't have to take it all the way through to permit. But I wanna make sure when we set up a project for you or an investment group, that the property can be eventually get a permit by setting up things correctly at the beginning. This is just an idea of a project schedule. I put this in here because I thought it would be important to give you an idea of if an end user comes along and says, hey, you've owned this property for 5 years as a part of your investment group, we want to buy that property, but we need a year or two worth of an escrow period before we can buy that property. That's no joke from them. They literally need a year or two to get through the municipal process to do all the things I just showed you, zoning, preliminary plat, site plans, final construction drawings. To get to a permit, it takes about 2 years. So they're not lying when they say they need a little bit of time. But we can help you get through some of that process. We're helping with some investment groups now, make some steps in that process to help shorten the escrow period later. It helps increase the value of the property during that time when you're waiting for a buyer to come along. Go ahead. These are all of the other people that can be involved in a project besides myself. Some of these things my firm does, others we do not. Do those things in-house. Geotechnical engineer, as you get into looking at purchasing a property, you may want to have a geotechnical engineer investigate the soil conditions on the property. That'll be something that the end buyer does in the future. So I'd hate to see any of you buy a parcel that has a fissure on the site, or that has poor soils or contaminated soils. We look at doing phase 1 environmental assessments for the same reason, to make sure that buyers aren't transacting on property that has contaminated soils. So the special concerns, we talked a little bit, or I want to mention a little bit about certificate assured water supplies. We'll do that here in a second. 404 permits, one thing that in the past has been a problem, what was known at the time as a 404 wash. There are several natural washes that cross properties that the Army Corps of Engineers, the federal government, would regulate those washes. And what happened was the federal government passed a law that's affecting the entire nation, but of course it was really intended to limit the development adjacent to natural rivers and streams. As you can imagine, there's fish in those streams that don't do well when sediment enters those waters. It causes the fish population to die. Well, those same laws were being enacted on our dry natural washes that go through Scottsdale and Tonopah and Eloy. You could tell that those things were burdensome to development. It was inhibiting our ability to develop on those properties. So recently, the federal government has made what they call ephemeral washes no longer fall under this category. So something that was previously a problem, the government actually solved. I know it's a shock, but it does happen once in a while, at least here for us in Arizona, the desert Southwest. Now there are still there's three I can think of that are actual navigable waters in Arizona. One is the Salt and Gila River. One is the Verde River, and then of course there's the Colorado River. And so those are the main bodies of water that if you're trying to purchase property and develop adjacent to, you need to be very aware of the 404 section in the Clean Water Act. But otherwise here, we're pretty much don't have to worry about those things anymore. Other agencies that you could be interacting with when you purchase property, and that's a list there. There's the State Land Department. You could be looking at property. You want to make sure you don't need to get an easement from the State Land Department. That can take quite a while to get access, let's say, across state land. You want to make sure you know who is adjacent to you. So water supply questions. The rules of the water supply are constantly changing. There's new news almost probably once a month in the paper or online about the state's current situation with water. I'm sure most of you have heard, but just so I can repeat it, because my friend from GPEC will be happy that I did. Arizona has 96 years worth of water right now, 92 years worth of water right now, according to the government. So you can imagine, but our rules require us to have 100 years worth of water. We're the only state in the United States that has anything even close to that. I think the second to us is Nevada, and they have to have like, what, a 50-year or a 10-year water supply, and we have to have 100. That's just our rules and our law, that's in our state code. But analysis has been done over the entire Phoenix watershed basin area underground, and that proves that we have 92 years worth of water. But to get to 100 years worth of water, we only have to do a couple things, and this is all modeling. This is all in a very sophisticated hydrogeologic model that, we all know models can fluctuate or vary, but right now we have plenty of water, and those models are being updated and analyzed and changing, and there's other things that the model currently doesn't do. When we treat wastewater, that treated wastewater is put back into the ground. It helps recharge our aquifer. And that is currently not being taken into account by the water models that that ADWR uses. If they were to take that into account, then we would be back up way above 100 years worth of water supply. We'd have no more problem. So I won't get into my personal views on why I think the governor's, why the thought process is, why we are in the situation that we're in, but that's just the reality of the model and the physical reality of the water supply that we have in the ground. There is no problem. So there are public and private water companies. You can be in the city of Buckeye or the city of Surprise and still be served by a private water company. In some cases, the city is the water company. In other cases, it is not. You can be in the city of Peoria and be served by Peoria, or you can be served by Sunrise Water. Sunrise Water Company is a small water company that provides water. Goodyear could be serving you, but there's also Litchfield, Liberty Utilities in the city of Goodyear. They serve some areas north of I-10. So we have to understand who's serving us water and whether or not that water company has what's called a designated water supply. So certain water companies have a designated supply of water that has been granted to them by the state of Arizona. And that means that water company has proven that they can supply water to their service area for the next 100 years. Other water companies don't have that. So right now, the city of Buckeye has no water in their system, or is basically under a water moratorium because they do not have a designated water supply, and they are in their water supply underground is in question through the modeling that I mentioned earlier, even though it's not really a problem. And so that's the first thing to figure out, and you're looking at a parcel of land, and I know it's getting a little complicated, but these things are available online as well. The ADWR has a really nice GIS website that will help when you go to it, and it'll help you determine whether or not this property has an assured water supply or whether it doesn't. Whose water service area am I in? And that's readily available. Now, there is a couple of things that are out there right now. There is, I guess let's say, word on the street that, hey, I'm doing a commercial development, but I don't need a 100-year assured water supply. Or I'm doing an apartment complex, and I don't need a 100-year assured water supply. Or I'm doing a data center, and I don't need a 100-year assured water supply. Those things are potentially true, but they're also potentially a problem. Because if you're in an area that has a designated water supply, every drop of water has to be accounted for by that utility provider. If you're in an area that doesn't have a designated water supply like Buckeye, then you're actually okay. So it's a very tricky water situation for us in Arizona. The rules and laws are very difficult to understand. There are times when I start to second my own opinions about things, but that's when we need to speak with a water attorney, which I can connect you with as well. There's new rules out there that you've probably seen in the paper. Ag to Urban is a very popular rule and law change that could be taking place. And those are negotiations that are actively happening right now. There are opportunities though in that discussion that's taking place, because you could be looking at investing in a property that currently it's in agricultural use, doesn't currently have a water supply, and you could be looking at a way to help invest in that property today in the hopes in the future it may have a water supply. Tony's trying to take me off. How much more do I have, Tony? Is that all I got? All right, well, for data centers, let me just mention one thing. Most of you heard, I think last summer, APS delivered the most power that they ever did, over 8,000 megawatts. I'm gonna play the guessing game about the other gentleman did about the ASU professors. So how many megawatts do you think right now are currently in APS's backlog to provide for data centers?
1,000?
Much higher.
5,000.
Higher. So 13,000 megawatts is in their backlog, in their pipeline. So when I have a client come to me and say, I got this project out here, doesn't have water, doesn't have sewer, but it's right next to power lines, and I want to get APS to bring it power for data center use. I say, right now, APS delivered 8,200 megawatts worth of power last summer, and all of their service area, Phoenix, Flagstaff, almost all the way down to Tucson, 8,200 megawatts. 13,000 megawatts worth of backlog. That's more than double their service capacity that they have right now. So there's a lot of work that APS is working very fast to do to create additional power, but that's also a very big line to get into, to need to wait to get to the front of the line. So just be careful.
Is this demand because of the data centers coming to the
Data centers. That's just the demand that they've said is because of the backlog of applications they have for data centers. That doesn't count residential and other industrial growth that will be occurring as well.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Right. One thing which is very intriguing to me, I have studied a little bit about water, and I'm sure you know about this Landowners, the guy who talk about water harvesting. I mean, if we build up a project which can assure water by water harvesting for that particular, development, have you had any knowledge of passing that they can approve? They can say, we're going to do the water harvesting. We have 8 to 30 inches of rain every year. So, here's your, especially, Buckeye area.
I haven't heard that being successful, no. And one thing I didn't touch on, but I should have, if you're looking to do a plat on a parcel, on price of property and create more than 5 lots, whatever the type of use is, you need an assured water supply. So be careful of that. Even if you're in the county and you say, I'm gonna get a well and I'm gonna develop 40 lots, I'm gonna turn it into 40 lots, the county says I can, you can't, because you need to have a final plat. And a final plat of more than 5 parcels creates an assured water supply requirement.
Thank you so much. That was immensely knowledgeable, Ryan. Really appreciate it. So Ryan is one of our business partners, right, that we work with as a part of qualifying the land. So both Hidalbai and me, we have him on our speed dial. Anytime we're looking to evaluate a project that we want a pre-assessment done, Ryan's organization, and Ryan is the one that we reach out to. So thanks, Ryan. Next up is Joel Millman, right? So Joel represents Pinal County. He's the interim director of Pinal County's Economic Workforce Development Department. We're going to hear from him on what is happening in Pinal County, right? What is the next big thing from a Pinal County perspective? Joel?
Well, thanks for having me here. It was 6 months ago, just to give you a little background where I'm coming from. 6 months ago, I worked in our department, the Pinal County Economic and Workforce Development Department, and I took care of the workforce side. And so I'm I know we're talking about land here and land investments and the dreams and what could happen with this land. I spent my whole career working on, okay, the land there's a building on that land and they have to hire people. And so I always had the pulse of the economic development in the county, been with the county almost 10 years, and hip to hip with our economic developer. 10 years ago, Pinal County's Economic Development Department consisted of one individual. And he knew the county, as he told me, he had since passed away. He told me, he goes, I know where every rock is in Pinal County. I know where every gas line is. I know where every water line is. I know the size of the gas lines, the size of the water lines, everything. And I believe him. He passed away, and we had a new director, and he left the county last month, 6 months ago, and then the county manager asked me if I wouldn't mind not only doing the workforce, but let's see what's going on the economic development side of things, if you don't mind keeping tabs on that. So since then, the last 6 months, trying to get my head around this economic development and all the tremendous growth that's happening in Pinal County. which I realized on the workforce side, and now I'm just plowing it into my head, where are those gas lines? Where is that? Where are those water lines? What kind of power do we need for all the growth that's coming, and the growth that's here? So my presentation here today is, just bear with me, I'm just gonna give you kind of a general overview of what is going on in Pinal County. The county's, everybody, I don't know, it's like every county the size of Connecticut. Everywhere I go, it seems like Connecticut is like the most popular state when you compare our Arizona counties to it. So Pinal County, about the size of Connecticut. Those of you who are familiar with Pinal County, and I know Joe is, because it was about, I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I got a call that, hey, there's this guy in your job center in Casa Grande, and he wants to talk to you about this presentation. And I said, I'm in Florence, and I take his name and I'll give him a call. I think about, I don't know, it seemed like 15 minutes later, and those of you who know Pinal County, it takes a little longer if you get behind a hay truck going from Casa Grande to Florence. This orange folder was on my desk, and all the information about speaking here tonight was all ready to go. And so, Joe, thank you. Joe and I go way back for about, I don't know, an hour. But I really appreciate it, and so I'm just going to dive right into this. Enough of that. There we go. Perfect. So just to give you a little background on what's going on, and I'll touch on some of these a little more in depth as I go through this. It's not going to be a long presentation, but I just want to give you a little background here. On the top there, we have a lot, this is not new to a lot of folks, but it's really, really, really exciting in Pinal County. What gets me here is we have LG Energy Solution in Queen Creek. And that is a facility, those of you who've been out there, they're going gung-ho on building that battery manufacturing facility in Queen Creek. Those of you familiar with the Valley, Queen Creek, with LG there, it just blows us away. Ultimately, they'll have almost 3,700 jobs out there. I'm working with them on the workforce side to help them hire their initial staff. So they're already starting to hire some engineers for that facility, and then later this year, beginning of next year, they'll start really going gung-ho and start hiring their staff. That building should be ready by then. LG there, we have Procter & Gamble that has some in the inland port in Coolidge, right north of the former Nikola site. So Procter & Gamble is moving dirt around. We don't see anything coming vertical out of the ground yet, but it's coming. Approximately 500 jobs there in Coolidge on top of what's going on. And I mentioned Lucid there. Lucid, as you all know, Nikola Motors, April 21st, going to shut their doors in Coolidge. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, Lucid Motors purchased that facility. On the workforce side, we were working with Nikola's staff and the 300 staff out of that Nikola plant that were laid off on April 21st. 500 additional Nikola staff in the city of Phoenix were laid off when that happened. Lucid moved in about 3 weeks later, purchased the facility, and we're looking to hire back 300 folks. So we were helping folks transition back into employment. Lucid came in, purchased that, and now they're looking to hire back a lot of those folks. So now Lucid will have a footprint in Casa Grande and in Coolidge, which is pretty exciting, and Lucid really getting a strong foothold in the county. And then Freeburg Industries is a new one, metal container fabricator out of California. They're looking to hire 100 people to be, hopefully they'll be start hiring next year, but they're already starting to hire their plant manager. And so we're helping them do that. Overview of Pinal County itself. A workforce of 480, a population of 483,000. A workforce of 220,000, and later on I'm going to show you a map. 80% of that workforce every day leaves Pinal County to go work somewhere else. And so that's an educated workforce that's most likely going up into Maricopa County to the Bowings and Tempe and Chandler. And we're looking to this growth here to retain a certain percentage of that workforce for the growth that's coming. Well-educated. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And then just circling back, again, those of you who may be familiar with the landscape of Pinal County or just the valley as a whole, this is nothing new, but it's exciting for us again, is electric vehicles and batteries. We mentioned Lucid Motors. We have LG, and then we also have a lot of the supply chain. There we go. Thank you. A lot of the supply chain, we have TSMC. We don't have TSMC, even though TSMC seems to be everywhere. But we're going to claim a lot of the supply chain down in Casa Grande for them. And then, so semiconductors, building materials out in Eloy with Gold Bond, and then consumer products, again, Procter & Gamble. All these right now just represent over $10 billion in capital investment and over 13,000 jobs. Everything goes according to oil over time. This is not going to happen by tomorrow, but the next 5 or 6 years, the landscape of Pinal County is going to look vastly different. And this is, you can just see the distribution of a lot of the growth that's coming here. And one thing, I started looking at this map, which we use in these presentations, and it just kind of displays where the growth is. Over the years, Casa Grande, rightly so, the intersection of I-10 and I-8, Casa Grande has the land, has the location. That's one thing I did learn, even on the workforce side, location, location, location. And so I-10, I-8, Casa Grande, perfectly situated, a lot of the growth is there and has been there for years. But what we're starting to notice now is a bit of a distribution, and it's going to take time, but it's kind of, again, really exciting. The distribution of some of the growth of the industries that are coming into Pinal County. It's not all going to be Casa Grande. Freeburg going into Eloy. We have Resolution Copper. For those of you, they're looking to get the okay to start really getting into the mining industry, making a comeback in Pinal County, which is making a big difference. So we have Resolution Copper in the upper northeast part of the county. We have Eloy in the south part, and we also on the Copper Corridor, which you can see here on State Route 77 and I-77 or 177. That's the Copper Corridor. So a lot of copper mining on that side. Copper, semiconductors, all ties together. And then we also have some mining going on in the Casa Grande area as well, and in Florence. But you start seeing the distribution over time. There's land available. Understand there's a lot of state land, but we're going to take a peek here in a little bit as far as where that growth can happen. But a lot of that is just primed for growth. And it's, I guess it's Maricopa County, and those of you are more educated than I am, but Maricopa County is seems like it's either going to the west side, Tempe, Chandler, kind of had their day. I love Chandler, lived there for a lot, but they're kind of grown out. And then where do you go? Pinal County is just waiting for everybody. And then again, I'm just tying into the employment, and it's not just employment, but you can just see the growth of the workforce in the county itself. These represent the jobs in the county, and you can just see again the growth this is over a 5-year period. And so it's just following the industry, and that's why it's just exciting to be on the workforce side of things, but also on the economic development side of things. So you can kind of see where the county's going, and then you can turn around and say, we need a workforce, and have to work with the educators and K through 12 community colleges and the universities to make sure we have the workforce for when the land's developed, the building goes up, and they have a for-hire sign outside. This is the map I was just referencing a little bit ago. This is from the Census Bureau. It's on the map. It's called On the Map. You can go there, you go to census.gov and On the Map. This is inflow, outflow of workforce in a given area. Their data is usually 2 to 3 years behind, just the way they have to calculate everything. But it's representative, this is the number, the 81.2% of the workforce that I mentioned earlier. That's been pretty consistent over the last 5 or 6 years. And so a majority of those folks coming into Phoenix, as I mentioned, in Maricopa County, some bleed into Pima County. But I think we'll start seeing, our goal here as a county is just grab a certain, we don't need 100% of those folks staying in the county. But boy, if we even just kept 10% of those over time, that's a big difference in our workforce and our local workforce. Thanks. And then just looking ahead, these are just some interesting data points. The county's growth, I think, is it's the fastest growing county in the state. I also heard it's like the 7th fastest growing county in the country, I think. And I know Supervisor Miller, one of our supervisors, likes to tout that, and maybe the #1 west of the Mississippi. But yeah, so we have tremendous growth. So that contributes to the workforce that's going to be needed as this land is developed. And I just leaned on our GPAC folks here, and I know you'll hear from Thomas in a second here, just stealing some of the stats from them. But 239,000 acres of vacant land in the county itself. I'm learning and trying to pound it into my head, where is all this vacant land, what's it zoned like, who owns it, and what can we do to attract a lot of business in there to develop it. Thank you. And then just looking ahead, these next couple of slides are just an overview of some of the, some of the growth industries that we're seeing here. I mentioned mining, Resolution Copper up in Superior, the Florence Copper. If you ever get a chance, I took a tour of, going back to Resolution Copper, I took a tour of Resolution Copper site. I went down 7,000 feet. They got the largest copper deposit in the country waiting to be mined out there. Provide about 25% of the nation's copper is be right there. And when you talk about the semiconductor industry again, with the copper, really it's a gold mine. Yeah, it's copper mine. But it's very interesting. You go down there and see what the work is down there. You go, there's electricians and there's piping, and it's just amazing what's down below the ground there. Florence Copper, I had the opportunity to tour their facility. Totally different process in mining the copper. If you drive by Florence Copper, has anybody driven by Florence Copper? Had an opportunity there? You'd never know it was a copper mine there. Taking the tour, the person I was working with said, boy, people drive by our building, they thought it was a bank. It's just a regular administrative building, and you'd never know. Their process is all going to be done below ground, extracting the copper in liquid form, and then recreating it into copper cathodes and then selling it off to their suppliers and things. It's just an amazing process. And then we have other mines in development too, as far as we have Ivanhoe Electric, and also the Cactus Mine through Arizona Sonoran Copper Company. Those are around Casa Grande, and so those are mines that are being kind of resurrected as they were started years ago. But the mining industry is making a comeback in Pinal County next. And then again, looking ahead, this is more of the growth there. This is just, again, the sampling there of the LG, Lucid, Procter & Gamble, Freeburg as examples that I mentioned. The big deal, Pinal County right now, I would say, is State Route 24. That's kind of like, those of you who are familiar with, I was speaking with one of our supervisors yesterday, those of you who are familiar with Chandler. And I lived in Chandler about 35, 40 years ago. And those of you who are familiar with that Price Road, does anybody remember when Price Road was like a dirt road? Mm-hmm. Right? It had the ruts in there, and you just knew you were at the end of the world there. And Price Road today, it's amazing. It's a corridor, high-tech, headquarters of some companies there. State Route 24, I'm not saying it's going to be like Price Road, but we can get the funding and get that 24 to the 60. That allows the county to really have a development corridor, kind of maybe like what the 202 looks like around the Mesa Gateway Airport. And so we're looking forward to the development of that. Again, LG is really one of the driving forces behind there, and that allows us to lay out some long-term planning with the land that borders both sides of the 24 there. And then again, Santan Valley, home of about 110, 120,000 individuals, 90% of which go to work in Maricopa County every day. But there are 120,000 people in unincorporated county land. There's a vote on August 5th to see if they can become incorporated. And that's going to be exciting in a lot of different ways. And so stay tuned for that, because that'll bring a whole different flavor to what Pinal County will look like. And then the Pinal County Air Park, I know that a lot of you are familiar with the land around the air park itself, around the Red Rock area, north of that, but the air park itself, it is a kind of a blank slate, needs a lot of infrastructure redevelopment there. It's been there for a long time, but with Ascent Aviation and other employers down there, there's still a lot of land on the air park itself for a lot of dedicated specific type of industry that can come there. But there's a lot of growth, not just the air park itself, but around that air park. And then these are just some bullet points here, just overall of what we're going to be looking for, and working on as we go together in Pinal County to kind of keep pace with the anticipated growth. I know we mentioned data centers, we have solar farms, there's a lot of things, a lot of industry that potentially can come in there. Infrastructure, obviously, all aspects of it are a big deal and necessary, not to even mention roads. One thing to develop land, put a building on it, but you can't get people to and from it, it's out there. And one thing I just want to mention in closing too, Pinal County, the governor's office started an initiative called Future 48 Accelerators. And these are training centers that are dedicated to industry. So an industry comes into Pinal County and they need to train their workforce. There are a series of Future 48 training centers around the state that are partnered with not only city, but Commerce Authority and industry itself. And Pinal County is two of those Future 48. The first one was Drive 48, which is on the Central Arizona College campus in Coolidge, specifically for Lucid. The second one just opened up, or pretty much opened up in beginning of April on the Central Arizona College campus, the Superstition Mountain campus in Apache Junction. LG has that. LG is using that center to train their newly hired staff before they go to work in the factory. So a lot of exciting things going on in Pinal County. Here's some websites. I said we have the county, you can see the website to our department. Arizona at Work is our workforce arm. I oversee that arm as well. And then we also have a tourism-focused effort going on called Explore Pinal. So land's developed, people want to come and explore Pinal County for recreation and enjoyment. Come on down. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Huge amount of information about Pinal County. Thank you so much. I just have a quick housekeeping item. If you look on your table, right, there is a white piece of paper and a pen. If you could please write down your name, your telephone number, and your email, that would help us out quite a bit. We are starting monthly newsletters as far as land is concerned. So we want to make sure that we get you on the mailing list. Also, the next time we have a big banking opportunity coming up, we want to make sure that we include you guys in those opportunities. So please make sure that you guys fill up those white sheets of paper. Once again, name, email addresses, and contact phone numbers. Okay. Next up, we have Thomas Maynard, and Thomas is actually the Senior Vice President of Business Development for the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Welcome. He's going to talk to us about what's happening in the whole Phoenix area.
Thank you. I know we have a few more speakers, so I'll roll through this a little bit more. But thanks for having me. Go ahead to the next slide. And one more. I work for, as mentioned, GPEC, Greater Phoenix Economic Council. We are the regional economic development entity that services the entire metropolitan Phoenix area. So that includes all of Maricopa County, as of a couple of years ago, all of Pinal County as well. So we work very closely with Joel and his team. And our job, quite simply, is to help grow the economy of Greater Phoenix primarily through business attraction. So I'll be talking more about that, of trends we're seeing, what types of companies are moving here, why they are moving here, and maybe what we could be doing more to induce more investment into our great community. Here's just a snapshot of what we do on a daily basis. are services that we offer at no charge to our clients. We offer it at no charge because we are fully funded by a combination of our cities in our 2 counties. That makes up about a third of our operating budget, and 2/3 comes from out, give or take 200 private sector investors that are invested in our mission to help us go and recruit companies. Part of the services that we offer are to identify sites, buildings and land sites for our clients. Sometimes they are working with brokers or other real estate professionals and they're taking the lead on that. Other times they're asking us to do that for them. So if you all represent land or if you have land holdings that you want to put in front of these clients, my first step for you all is get to know your local economic development professional. Our process, when we have clients go through our pipeline, is we reach out to all of the cities and we have them submit their projects or their sites to our clients. So step 1, know your local economic development professional. If you are in unincorporated land, obviously you just heard from Pinal County. Maricopa County is hiring an economic development professional as we speak. So you'll have someone that we can direct you to talk to them as well. The number one thing that our clients are going to ask us for every site that's submitted, we talked about it earlier. Where's the water? Where's the wastewater? Where's the power? Where are the roads? Where's the workforce? So just be prepared to know and understand what is that use case for your particular site. But we can talk more about that going forward. Go ahead, next slide. One more. So going into our pipeline and what we're seeing, again, we are the tip of the spear, the forefront, trying to attract companies into the greater Phoenix area. We are staying very busy. We are above our pre-year goal in terms of new prospects looking at the market. What is interesting to note is 28% of that deal flow are from FDI projects, foreign direct investment projects. I just came back yesterday, which is why my voice is a little hoarse, to the largest FDI conference in the US. It's called Select USA. It's put on by the Department of Commerce, US Department of Commerce. Every state has a booth, including Arizona. We had about 30 economic development professionals from all across Arizona represented there, trying to recruit more and more companies into our market. On the right, you'll see, give or take, mid-30s in terms of companies that have made their location decisions. You can see the CapEx and the jobs potential. We'll talk about this here in a little bit. Go ahead, next slide. Overall, again, give or take 200 projects that are looking at the greater Phoenix area. Lots of CapEx, a lot of jobs, a lot of square footage potential. Let's see if we can win every single one of them. That'd be great. Go ahead, next one. This shows a breakdown of what does that pipeline look like. So it is about a 80% industrial, 20% office breakdown. If we went back to 2019 pre-COVID, that was a 60-40 split, 60% industrial, 40% office. So you can see over this last 5 years, it's heavily shifted and geared toward industrial projects. If we zoom in on industrial, on the left-hand side, you'll see those operation types, and some are very, very small. That's hilarious. Sorry about that formatting. 24 says warehouse and distribution, that 18 says advanced back office. But it tends to be that industrial pipeline. It tends to be more manufacturing. We heard, if we were playing a drinking game, of every time you heard TSMC and LG, right, we'd all be very, 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 very drunk right now, right? Because those are obviously the drivers for a lot of our activity, but it's a lot of that supply chain. Also see a lot of warehouse distribution type projects. They're trying to get to the Port of LA and back. Next slide.
Is that this one, right? What are the numbers?
Yeah, good question. Those numbers are the number of projects in our pipeline. So just the number of deals in the pipeline, yeah. We usually go over this with our board, so they're much more familiar with our metrics, so apologies for that, yeah.
Sorry, these numbers.
Yep.
Thousands. The numbers are thousands.
Oh, on the left-hand side, that is another great question. And again, apologies, the format is kind of wonky there. That is the square footage of those projects. So that's the bar graphs are how much demand are in the 200,000 feet and above and so on and so forth. So yeah, on the industrial side, it's definitely those big bombers, 200,000 plus we have even some that are 500,000, even 1 million square feet and above. But the supply chain, as Joel mentioned, for a lot of the TSMC and LG suppliers tend to be on the smaller side. So it's not just these big bombers, it's really all across the board. Next slide. Where are our deals coming from? Not a surprise. Most of our domestic projects are from California. We send a gift basket every holiday season to the governor of California, say, keep doing what you're doing. Keep making business very, very hard to compete there, because we are the beneficiaries of that. So we will always, we do this numbers and data, every month. It'll always be pretty similar. Anywhere from 15 to 20% of our overall deal flow is from California. We are recruiting from all over the United States, which is great to see. Breaking down that 28% on the international projects, those FDI projects. A lot of Southeast Asia. Again, as we mentioned, it's Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and specifically in the semiconductor and the battery space. What's not on this list, but what should be, is India. We know that this is for us, a focus area in the future. We think there's a lot of opportunity for inbound investment from India, especially in industries like pharmaceuticals. If the federal government, this is what the tea leaves are saying, if they want to induce this back into America, this manufacturing process back into America, very much like we did with the CHIPS Act, and very much like we did with IRA that induced electric vehicles and battery manufacturing back in the United States, we think there's a huge opportunity there. So we're just getting started, but we are actively, as an organization, making sure that we are connected into that market. So this is a great opportunity for us, and it's looking forward to talking to you all after as well. Again, only 2 more slides. We've already talked about this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but again, numbers that we all need to know. TSMC, they're up to $165 billion in their investment. That is the single largest FDI project in the United States history. So we were at that conference earlier this week, and all we saw was all these other states bragging about how great they are. And we said, have fun being in second place. $165 billion investment just for one company. LG, they're a $5 billion investment. Amkor, top left, $2 billion investment. They're in the advanced packaging piece of the semiconductor process. Intel, oh, by the way, an additional $20 billion investment to what they've had in our market since the 1970s. NACAS is a name that you probably don't know, but that is an R&D project. The federal government, through the CHIPS Act, chose 3 markets to do a flagship R&D opportunity. Silicon Valley got one, upstate New York got the second one, we won the third one at ASU. So not only are we building the chips here, we are now going to be doing the most advanced R&D for the chips so that we can produce the next great startup company. And we put Dutch Bros up there because we actually do have some office. We love industry, we love manufacturing. Dutch Bros, we're not talking about the little coffee shops, but it's actually they moved their regional headquarters here in Tempe. And then last slide is logos that you may not know of, but again, we don't just work on the billion-dollar projects. I wish we did. So here are just other examples of either supply chain companies for battery. That's what that Intor is on the bottom. Mayo Clinic and they have the worst timing. They announced their $2 billion investment into North Phoenix and how they're going to continue to grow. And then like 45 minutes later, that's when TSMC announced their additional $100 billion investment. So the $2 billion investment got overshadowed in our market. Again, good problems to have. But I'll pause here because I know we have some other speakers, but happy to chat more. But I'll end on this. We are thrilled to see all of the momentum that we've had so far. But we know it's still a very, very competitive landscape. So that's why organizations like GPEC are being on the forefront to make sure we win the next project. Yeah.
What's the top secret project you can't talk about? Tell us about it.
Yeah. Let's see. It's project whatever. And people ask us, what's the name of the projects? And sometimes it's as simple as like, project chair. It's going to be project chair. I wish I could share.
In terms of year-over-year growth, do you have a percentage, like what percent of the commerce or economic development is happening in the city of Phoenix year-over-year?
Yeah, the question was year-over-year growth. And again, we're not just City of Phoenix, we're the entire metropolitan area. So 22 cities and towns, Maricopa County and Pinal County. It depends on what metric you look like. I will answer your question this way. I've been with the GPEC for 11 years. So 2013 is when I first started. 2013, we would average probably somewhere between 30 and 35 new companies that are making an investment into the market. Since 2020, that number has been 50. Either high 40s to mid 50s in terms of new companies that have made their investment into the U.S. or into Greater Phoenix specifically. There's job numbers that fluctuate over time. What's also very interesting is earlier in that slide, it was a slide for average high wage salary you saw it was $100,000. So our high wage jobs we're producing, those are the types of jobs that are coming here. That number when I first started would probably be 55,000. So not only are we recruiting a lot of these higher end companies, and there's a lot of volume there, it's also the right jobs that we're recruiting to our region. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you compare like just what you do and then what ACA is doing? So Arjuna Commerce Authority, basically, they do the exact similar thing, what I understand from my point of view. Because we work like Indian American International Chamber of Commerce, we work very closely with them. So any business is coming from India to here or some other way around. So we work with them. So, but just I want to understand like just what you compare, how do you compare like these two organizations?
Yeah, great question. So in the economic development world, going back to my first point of what you need to do is call your local economic development professional. So here's the Economic Development 101 in Arizona. There's a few different layers of economic development. Like you mentioned, the ACA, Arizona Commerce Authority, they are the statewide economic development agency. They do a few things like manage the economic incentive programs. They also manage several international offices. So we work very, very closely with our state partners. This conference that I referenced that we were at, it's the Arizona booth that all of the other local economic development entities join into. Next layer down is your regional economic development groups. So GPEC, Northern Arizona has one, Yuma has one, Tucson has one, your counties, Pinal County, Maricopa County, and then going down to your local economic development professional. So City of Phoenix, City of Tempe, City of Chandler, City of Cleveland, all of those have local economic development teams. We are all here doing the same thing, trying to recruit companies, but we have our own little niche of how we do it. So we're all one big team. Economic development definitely is a team sport. So it may sound redundant, but actually we work very, very closely and collaboratively together. Yeah. Good question.
Thank you. One more question. Thank you so much. I think we're going to hold off on the question for a minute. We'll come back to the question. We'll hold on to the question. We'll come back to it towards the end of the presentation. I promise. So thank you so much, Thomas. Truly appreciate that. You know, now that you guys have seen what's happening in Pinal County, what's happening in the greater Phoenix area, what's happening in Maricopa County, right? Let's see what we can do with that, right? What kind of a play we will have investing in these particular potential opportunities. So with that, we're going to move the presentation a little bit to say, okay, this is what is happening. How can I be a part of it? So with that in mind, I'm going to bring Jobai up. He's going to talk about what's happening in Tono Bay.
Thank you, Tony Bhai. Wow. Do you all like what you hear so far? Yes. Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Thomas. What an informative speakers. Appreciate it. One big round of applause, please. Now, the halftime is over. Now the other halftime is beginning. So, as I told you earlier, I started in 2004 in land. And it's been an amazing, amazing, amazing journey. And I really believe this motto, I just came up with this, one of my office manager in India came up with this for me. He knows, he's working with me for the last couple of years. And I always say, I'm not going to sell you land. I'm not going to try to sell you land. And people laugh at me. He said, hey, Joe, you are an agent. Okay, but I'm truly saying that only thing I can do is educate you with land. Someday you will understand. Someday you will come to me to buy the land. And I have few good clients, as you know, they buy the land for me. So this is my motto. I believe in investor education first. Next. This is what Tonopah is. You know, starts on 331st Avenue, just touching Buckeye. So we are not far from Buckeye. We are only about, if no traffic, 45 minutes from downtown, from airport.